Well, good morning and welcome to today's webinar titled The Medium is the Message. And as always, before we get started, I just want to make sure that all of you can see my screen and hear my voice nice and clear. So if you look over on your GoToWebinar panel there, you'll have a question box right there, and I would really appreciate it if everyone tuned into the webinar could go over to that question box and just type anything. Just let me know that you're able to hear my voice all right and that the screen's there. Perfect. Thanks so much. Starting to get some messages in from everyone. Appreciate that. We're good to go. It's always nice without the technical glitches or anything like that. Well, thank you all so much for signing up for today's webinar, which is going to take a look at various social media networks and the way we communicate through them. So some of you may have noticed that each social media network almost seems to have its own language and etiquette in a way. We're going to talk about how you can utilize different social media networks in different ways. Two important things to point out before we get started. First is, just because we're going to talk about several different social media sites today, it doesn't mean that I think you need to be on all of these networks. If we have accounts on social media, it's our responsibility to be checking them and responding to them on a regular basis. But if we bite off more than we can chew and we sign up to multiple social media sites without ever checking them, that's not a good thing, because our clients who reach out to us through those sites may get frustrated, or those people who could be potential clients might search us out, and then when they come across an abandoned social media account, that looks bad. Maybe like we're not in business or we're not up to date on technology, so we want to avoid that. The second thing I want to point out is that we have several previously recorded webinars that are also available to you. So perhaps you signed up for today's webinar and it isn't exactly what you were hoping to learn. Well, be sure to visit our blog, which is also known as the Region Update. And on the next slide, I'm going to have the URL. So if you want to take a screenshot or write it down, whatever works for you. And in the past, I've done webinars such as Facebook Basics, Twitter 101, best practices in social media, those types of topics. So I strongly suggest you check that resource out. And there is the URL that I was talking about. It's remax-western.ca/blog. When you're on the region update, you can hover over the training tab and click on recorded videos. And that's where all of the previously recorded webinars live. You can also discover future webinars under the Events tab of the Region Update. So we have kind of a schedule of every upcoming webinar. So make sure to take a screenshot of this screen or write the URL down just so you have that blog address. And of course, if you forget to do that, you can always contact me and I'll be happy to share that information. One final housekeeping item to mention before we get started today is that we are using a hashtag RemaxSocial. So if there's anything you find valuable in today's webinar, if you want to send out a tweet letting others know you've tuned into the webinar, it'd be much appreciated. And you can also ask questions using that hashtag, and later on I'm going to go into Twitter and check that hashtag and answer any of your questions. So a big thank you to everyone who has taken time today to tune in. For those of you who haven't seen one of my webinars or recorded videos in the past, my name is Wade Patterson and I'm the Social Media and Communications Coordinator with Remax of Western Canada. If you ever have any questions or if you want to chat about social media or communications, please feel free to reach out to me. You can get me by email at wpatterson.remax@remax.net, or you can contact me at our head office here in Kelowna. That number is 1-800-563-3622. Or if you're on Twitter, my personal Twitter handle is @PattersonWade. Well, I'm really excited about today's webinar because it's taking a look at social media from a different angle. We're going to start the webinar by briefly talking about the actual phrase, the medium is the message, where it came from, as well as what it means. We're then going to talk about different social networks and what makes each of them unique. Through this section, I'm going to talk about opportunities that lie within each social media network and ways that you can add value to those who follow you. Finally, we're going to look at a couple ways we can use social media to listen to our clients and how we can send them more meaningful messages that will have a positive impact on them. So what is the meaning of the medium is the message? Well, the phrase was coined by Marshall McLuhan, who suggested that the way a message is delivered can be equally, if not more, meaningful than the actual message itself. So a simple example of this. Perhaps you have a friend who is going in for a job interview today. The content of your message to your friend may be, "Good luck on your job interview." Well, if you send that content in a text message, it will have a different meaning to your friend than if you picked up the phone and spoke those words to him or her, or if you wrote on their Facebook wall, or if you told them in person, or if you wrote them a card, etc. The reason I've decided to create a social media webinar out of this subject is that we're beginning to see McLuhan's idea take shape even through the various social media networks we're on. For example, a LinkedIn message to a colleague may affect them in an entirely different way than a Facebook message can. This webinar is also going to look at some of the etiquette we're finding with different social media networks and why we can or should post certain types of content on, take Instagram for example, that maybe we can't or shouldn't post on Twitter as another example. Here's a very simple picture of the concept taking shape, kind of what I'm getting at, using a donut as an example. On Twitter, I'm eating a hashtag donut. Facebook, I like donuts. Foursquare, this is where I eat donuts. Instagram, here's a photo of my donut. YouTube, here I am eating a donut. LinkedIn, my skills include donut eating. Pinterest, here's a donut recipe. Spotify, now listening to donuts. Google+, I'm a Google employee who eats donuts. Well, of course, we're going to go much more in depth on how each social media network is different, but this picture is a clever way of showing that each social media network has a slightly different purpose. But I apologize to anyone who's a Google Plus fan because this photo kind of makes fun of that social network. But let's jump into this by starting with Facebook, because I believe Facebook is truly still the biggest and probably the most important social media platform. Facebook has become a multi-purpose medium. The heart of Facebook is sharing moments from your life or anything you find interesting. It's pretty wide open though. When you post something on Facebook, it is called updating your status. And when you go to type in a new status, Facebook asks you what's on your mind. Or when you go to write a status on your business page, it simply says, write something. I think this is the perfect example of how wide open Facebook is. It's a truly social network where people turn to in order to be informed or entertained. With that said, there are many other purposes to Facebook as well. When you're on the home page of your personal Facebook account, for example, on the left you have all of the groups you belong to. You have upcoming events as well as your favorite section. At the top right, you're constantly given notifications anytime you're mentioned or tagged or a post of yours is liked. You also have a message inbox that contains private messages, almost like an email in a way. On the right-hand side, you're alerted whenever a friend has a birthday, and now Facebook even provides trending headlines where some people go to get their daily news from. I think it's important that we put ourselves in the shoes of a user before we start thinking about what we want to post on our Facebook business pages. Because if we understand what people want to see when they log into Facebook, it will give us a better idea of what content we should be posting. Last summer, as a bit of an experiment, I went to Kelowna's downtown and I asked random people on the street why they use various forms of social media. The interview was part of a video segment I was working on for one of my speeches, and at the end of the process I found out 4 interesting things. The first, and it really shouldn't be that surprising, the primary reason people turn to social media networks such as Facebook is to stay connected to family and friends. Well, I think this makes sense if we think about personally how we use Facebook as well. The second finding was that although this was the primary reason, it didn't mean that people wouldn't still like or stay connected with businesses. Typically, they wanted to connect with businesses that kept them connected to what was happening in their communities. The third interesting finding was purely the amount of time people were spending on social media. I heard through those interviews 1 hour, 2 hours per day, and all of those people said, hey, compared to my friends, I'm hardly ever on Facebook or I'm never on social media. And they're right. The average time a millennial spends on social media per day, any guesses? 4.6 hours. Yeah, I've heard the question before, what's the ROI of social media? Why should I bother with social media? Well, I think that stat alone, 4.6 hours on average per day for millennials, that's where the eyeballs are. It's an important place to be. The last interesting finding, and I think the most important, was that sometimes people will like a business on Facebook because they're offering a prize or a discount or something like that. But here's the problem. As soon as the user has gotten what they wanted, whether it be the discount or they won the contest, they're going to disconnect with that business. So in other words, if your business page isn't consistently providing the user with any value, they won't stay connected with you. So when it comes to Facebook, I would strongly suggest that you post interesting content that's relevant to your communities. If you just post listing after listing through your Facebook business page, I'd suggest you're not really thinking about why people are going on Facebook in the first place, because I can promise you that nobody logs into Facebook to be sold something. So don't be afraid to post a few light social posts on your business page that show you're connected with your community. This could be a video of a market update. It could be valuable information on an upcoming community event. It could be photos from a recent fundraiser you were involved with your office. These types of posts give people a feel of your culture, and these posts don't seem like you're just trying to sell people something through Facebook. Now we move over to Twitter, and I have to say that I think a tweet, for some, may be one of the most confusing concepts to wrap their heads around when it comes to social media. When you tweet, you have 140 characters to do so. You can add photos, videos, or even polls to your tweets. Most tweets include things called hashtags, and you can mention people in tweets by including their usernames. People often include links in their tweets as well with the purpose of driving traffic to a specific website or content item. The biggest reason Twitter is different than other social media networks is specifically that 140 character rule. By their nature, tweets are short and sweet and to the point. The other reason Twitter is quite unique is because it really took the lead on integrating hashtags in terms of social media services. So what does all of this mean for you? Well, first off, if you have a message that you want to share on Twitter, I would highly discourage simply copying and pasting it from another social media network, because there is a good chance that either it will be too long for a tweet or it may get lost in the noise of Twitter because you haven't included hashtags or mentioned anyone or included photos or any of those things that help increase engagement. Hashtags allow your tweet to be discovered in a bigger conversation about a certain thing. For example, if you're in Edmonton and you're tweeting about real estate in Edmonton, use the hashtag YEGRE. So YEG is the Edmonton airport code and RE stands for real estate. Now you're probably wondering how on earth you're supposed to figure that out on your own, that that's an appropriate hashtag to use. However, when you break it down, it's really not that complicated. All I did to find that out is I used the search box within Twitter and I searched Edmonton real estate. I then looked down the list of several tweets and it was clear that most Edmonton real estate tweets were using the hashtag YEGRE. And now you may be asking yourself, well, why would people use that instead of hashtag Edmonton real estate? And that really falls back to the fact that you only have 140 characters in Twitter. Every single character counts. So hashtag YEGRE is much shorter than hashtag Edmonton real estate. Another thing to keep in mind on Twitter is that tweets with photos or videos typically do much better in terms of engagement. So even though Twitter is sometimes thought of as a text-driven social media network, you are more likely to have people retweet and favorite your tweets if you include photos or videos within them. LinkedIn is the perfect example of a social media network that has a very specific etiquette that most users abide by. LinkedIn is a social media network for professionals, and with it there are some things that you should consider when posting through that network. The first thing I'd suggest is that although it's important to have a strong profile built out in every single social media network, it's probably most important to do this on LinkedIn. The reason is many people treat LinkedIn profiles almost like living resumes. If you half-heartedly fill out your LinkedIn profile, you won't be showing people your full skill set and experience. LinkedIn profiles also rank incredibly high on Google searches. So if someone is searching for you, they may discover your LinkedIn profile page fairly high on that Google search, which probably means that you want to make sure your LinkedIn profile showcases your complete skill set for that very reason. The next thing to consider before posting an update on LinkedIn is that since LinkedIn is considered a professional network, it may be considered unprofessional to post some of the things that would be fully acceptable on Facebook. For example, a picture of you and your cat on your personal Facebook page is absolutely fine, and you'd probably be shocked with actually how many likes you get from that photo. But the same photo doesn't really belong on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a great place to share relevant industry articles, market updates, and there's even a long-form post section on LinkedIn. And this is kind of similar to a blog, and it allows you to write about areas that you consider yourself an expert in, providing value to those who are connected with you. Through LinkedIn, you're also able to write recommendations for your connections, which can be a truly meaningful gesture. You can think of a recommendation almost like a cover letter. So let me give you an example of how the medium can truly be the message through LinkedIn. Oftentimes, LinkedIn will send you email notifications when one of your connections has news. So you might be alerted when a colleague has a work anniversary, or when someone has a new job, or someone's been promoted. Well, let's say one of your connections, we'll call her Jane, recently was promoted to a new job. A lot of her connections on LinkedIn will probably like that update. Others may comment saying congratulations. Some might even take it to the next level and send her a personal message through LinkedIn. But you know that Jane's a good worker. She deserved that promotion. So what if you, instead of simply saying congratulations, took the extra 5 minutes, you went into her LinkedIn profile, and you gave her a recommendation? Peer reviews are powerful, and now Jane has your endorsement living on her LinkedIn profile. Which of those actions do you think is going to mean the most to Jane? I promise you, you can stand out in a very positive way by taking action such as this. And a secret benefit about doing this, oftentimes when you take the time to recommend someone on LinkedIn, they'll be more than happy to return the favor, oftentimes without you even asking. All right, on to Instagram, and before I talk a bit about it, I'm going to do a very quick poll to see what all of you think about Instagram. So I'm going to launch this poll right now, and it should be coming up on your screens, and on your GoToWebinar panels, you should be able to answer this question. I really appreciate your participation just to get a bit of an understanding where you're at in Instagram. Oh yeah, this is an interactive webinar for sure. So the question is, what are your thoughts on Instagram? Are you on it and you love it? Are you on it but you don't really get it? Are you on it but you want to be on it? Sorry, not on it but you want to be, or are you not on it and you truly don't see the point of Instagram? So I'll give you a couple more seconds. Like I said, right on your GoToWebinar control panel, you should be able to take this poll, click your choices, and perfect, getting a lot of answers here. Thanks so much. I'm going to close the poll now and share the results with you. Pretty good split right there. Wow, that's awesome. We have people coming from every angle. 29% on it and love it, 29% on it and don't get it, 14% on it but not on it but want to be, and another almost third of the audience said you're not on it and you really don't see the point of being on it. Well, that's great. Thank you all for taking the time to do that. Well, before we get into the purpose of Instagram and the way messages can be delivered, I just want to start off with a few facts that are really interesting about Instagram. So currently there are 400 million monthly active users. That's huge. And about a 50-50 split on male and female. Half of all Instagram users are between 25 and 34. So let me just repeat that. 400 million monthly active users, 50-50 male-female, half of which, so 200 million monthly active users between 25 and 34. If you want to target first-time homebuyers, that's really the sweet spot for this, and Instagram is a great network to think about doing that. Instagram's known for great photos. It's almost impossible not to make your photos look better, as Instagram provides easy-to-use filters and photo editing tools that make your photos look interesting. It also supports video clips of 15 seconds or less. The real estate industry is one where there are many photo opportunities and things you can be taking photos of. Are you volunteering in a community event? Take a photo of that and upload it to Instagram. It shows your culture. It shows that you're involved in the community. Did your clients just sell their house? Rather than just taking a photo of the house, the listing photo, and the sold sign maybe in the front yard, get a photo of that client putting the sold sign up or holding the sold sign, or the new buyer standing in front of the yard of their new house. Many homes have some sort of feature that is unique, so consider taking photos of those features rather than just your standard photos of the house. There are many ways we can take pieces of the real estate story and share them in a visually appealing way. The last step of posting a photo is writing something about it. Through this, you can tag other people and you can include hashtags. The great thing about hashtags is that people actually do search out hashtags within Instagram, and the etiquette within Instagram actually allows for more hashtags than other social media networks, such as Twitter. Research actually says that posts with 11 hashtags have the best engagement. And there are various apps out there. One, if you want to write it down, it's called Grama, Grama, and they can help you discover hashtags. But even the Instagram search itself will show you the most popular hashtags related to whatever topic you're searching for. So when I was talking about Twitter and you search Edmonton real estate and you start to see YEGRE and all those other hashtags, same thing with Instagram. Type in Vancouver real estate and you'll see the most popular hashtags being used that are relevant to that category. If you include those hashtags with your Instagram post, you have a much better chance of your photos being discovered by other people. A couple things to note in terms of how people use the medium of Instagram. My suggestion is that it's not a great idea to post photo after photo after photo, one after another on Instagram. As a user, you got to always think about how a user is using these things. It's a frustrating experience to have to scroll past on your news feed or your Instagram homepage photo after photo, especially when they're all similar or of a very similar subject. The second thing I'd suggest is that even though Instagram allows you to share your post on Facebook and Twitter, you may want to think twice before doing this. Now I might get some pushback on this one, but my thought is if you end up posting the exact same content on every single social media network, what is the incentive of following you in each of those spaces? Since each social media site has its own language, its own feel, I suggest that you post slightly different content on each platform that fits the form of the respective social media network. And before I move on to the next slide, I just want to say I've done Instagram webinars in the past, so especially those of you who commented you don't see the point of being on it, that's great. I appreciate the honesty. You might want to check out those webinars and see if it's something you might want to get interested in. There are some great possibilities and some great ways you can use Instagram as well. YouTube has become so much more than a social network. It's the second largest search engine in the world, and it really in itself has become a verb. Just like we say you should go Google that, we also say you should YouTube that when it pertains to video. Obviously, that's what YouTube is all about. You can create an account and then post videos to a channel that others can search within YouTube and that you can share and even embed on your own website. But for the purpose of this webinar, I want to talk about video in particular, not just YouTube. And before I say a few words on this subject, there's always a Facebook group that I have to mention when talking about video. The group is called Remax Play, which you can find by simply searching Remax Play within Facebook. So you'll see in the bottom left of this slide, I've written it out so you know what to search for. This Facebook group was started by a Remax agent, and it's completely made up of Remax affiliates who are helping each other out with video questions. It's one of the most helpful groups I've ever come across on Facebook. So the culture of it is that somebody posts a question or posts their video, asks for feedback, and all of these people with all different ranges of experience add their insights, their comments, and truly help make everyone's videos better. So check that group out if you have any video questions or if video is something you're interested in getting more involved with. So the company Cisco does regular studies on how much of the internet's traffic is video. In 2014, video content accounted for 64% of the world's internet traffic. However, by 2019, online video is expected to be responsible for 80% of the world's internet traffic. Video is becoming a ubiquitous form of online content, so it's a good idea for us to get accustomed with it now and kind of be on the forefront of it rather than trying to catch up later. I came across a quote in The Guardian that I felt was pretty powerful and accurately describes video. They wrote, "It is naturally engaging, and in an age of information overload, it's vital for small businesses to offer content that is easy to digest. If not, consumers will simply move on. If a picture paints 1,000 words, 1 minute of video is worth 1.8 million, according to Forrester's research. Another finding from Axon Research found that 7 in 10 people view brands in a more positive light after watching interesting video content from them. But beyond that, on a one-to-one level, there is something incredible about interacting with someone through video as compared to a phone call or email. The first thing is that even though it's not hard to record video on your smartphone, it's still a rare and unique practice to send someone a personalized video clip. There's this perception that shooting video takes an incredible amount of time, but if you challenge yourself to use video more often, you might even find that it saves you time in some cases. From what I've heard from many RE/MAX agents, BombBomb is an incredible service to use in terms of sending video through email. So if you haven't checked out BombBomb yet, you may want to do so. I can say on a personal level that there have been times people have reached out to me via video in terms of various business relationships, and every single time that interaction has had a lasting impression on me. Video content, such as video market updates for your local region, also make for fantastic social media content that you can share on other networks. So what I'm getting at is that video can be an incredibly powerful medium, not just for sending a message in an effective way, but also for creating an emotional connection as well. Pinterest is another great example of how a successful social media site has truly developed its own language and its own purpose. So I'm going to be honest. Admittedly, Pinterest isn't a social media network I'm overly familiar with. So for the purpose of this webinar, I reached out to my social media counterpart at RE/MAX Ontario Atlantic because she's all over Pinterest and was able to give me great Pinterest advice. The first big stat about Pinterest, and perhaps one of the reasons I've been late to the Pinterest party, 85% of Pinterest users are female. There are 100 million active Pinterest users, and it's one of the most popular social media sites out there. So our friends at RE/MAX Ontario Atlantic say that due to the highly visual nature of this platform, it translates itself into a fantastic place to showcase yourself and your business. For the men out there, Pinterest is not just for ladies who are looking at shoes and recipes. In fact, home decor is the most popular category on Pinterest. Users also love to explore local places, restaurants, interior spaces, and listings. You can also feature tips and tricks for both buyers and sellers, engaging content that can be of use to a wide audience. Images are not the only way to capture your audience's attention either. Pinterest allows you to upload videos which you can then link back to your website. This will help you drive organic traffic, which is huge in terms of SEO. The medium of Pinterest also allows you to mix personal and business. So just because you signed up to Pinterest to promote your business doesn't mean that you shouldn't post other interesting pins that could engage your customers. Showcase your personality by adding boards about your personal interests or other tips and tricks that people find useful. This will help in getting people to connect with you and build a relationship. So in a nutshell, Pinterest is a highly visual way of collecting and organizing the things that you love. Snapchat. This to me is one of the most interesting social media networks out there because it has a huge user base and those who use it truly love it. But I think many professionals are still trying to wrap their heads around the benefits of using it. Well, over the last few months, I've seen more and more people jumping on the Snapchat bandwagon. There was this huge hesitance over the past couple of years, and perhaps that was because Snapchat had a bad reputation, or perhaps people couldn't understand how it could be useful. But now I'm seeing more and more marketers and even some agents starting to embrace the social media network. If you're wondering what Snapchat is for or what you can actually do with it, well, I've observed that Snapchat is a great way to give your audience behind the scenes unique content that you might not get through other social media channels. So you can take photos or videos and add filters to those photos or videos. You can also send content to individuals which they are able to view once, or you can build something called a story which will live on Snapchat for 24 hours, and any of your friends can view those snaps as many times as they'd like during that 24-hour period. One example of a way you could use Snapchat that comes to mind, well, people are always talking about what is the value of a realtor. Well, by snapping about your typical day, you're giving that behind the scenes look, and you may be able to show your audience some of the aspects of your job that they don't realize you do, or perhaps that they take for granted. But here's my warning about Snapchat. I'm a strong believer that social media is best used when we don't simply use it as a place to broadcast our own message. When we actually take the time to listen to what others are saying on social media and engage with their content as well, we begin to build relationships, and often they will be quick to interact with our content as well. Snapchat can be an amazing medium if you're using it to directly connect with others on your friends list, but if you simply use Snapchat to create stories and then you don't interact with anyone directly, it goes back to the idea of simply broadcasting. So me personally, I've started following some celebrities and even motivational speakers on Snapchat, and in a lot of cases, I've actually got quite annoyed by following those people because Snapchat can really bring out the ego in some individuals. So just be careful that you're still using Snapchat to interact, engage, and add value, and not just assuming that your story is more important than anyone else's. In terms of this webinar being the medium as the message, I think the most powerful aspect of Snapchat is the fact that the medium makes it very simple for you to send personalized video messages and or photos with the ability to use interesting filters to friends on your list who could also be potential clients. This can be a powerful tool for building relationships and standing out for being unique in the way you communicate to your connections. All right, I know I'm a bit over time here, but there are two more points I'd like to address in this webinar. The first is that there are services and products and apps out there that essentially allow you to take one message and distribute it across multiple social media networks. I mentioned this briefly during the Instagram section. Using tools such as these is certainly easier than going into each network individually, and it could be argued that it's more efficient. However, when we really start to think about the best ways to use each social media network and how each of the networks has its own flavor, I don't believe posting the same content to each network is in your best interest. I follow a few people on multiple networks. Some of these people post unique content on each network they're on, and I intentionally look for their posts on each network for that very reason. Other people post the same stuff everywhere, and I found that this actually becomes annoying, and in some instances I've disconnected with people because of this. My question, which I asked before, is if you post the same stuff everywhere, what is the incentive of following you on each network? Plus, as we've been talking about, certain posts don't belong on certain networks. And by posting the same stuff everywhere, we're ignoring the idea that the languages of social media networks vary. Here's the last tip I want to give, and I think it's the most important, especially when we think of the medium as the message, and I think it just encompasses this theme altogether. Social media is a gold mine of good news. A gold mine. By its nature, social media encourages people to share positive things. Somebody buys a house, somebody gets a new job, somebody wins a contest. You can almost guarantee that they're going to talk about it on social media. In the photo example here, we've all seen this. Facebook helps keep us aware of good news by reminding us about our friends' birthdays. Let me give you a quick example. My birthday was last October, and I remember this clearly. I did a little experiment. Approximately 90 people commented on my timeline on Facebook. So they saw the little, what's circled in red there that you're seeing on your screen. They clicked that, a box opened up, and they typed, "Happy birthday, Wade." 90 people did that. I can maybe remember 10 of the people who did that. I can remember who it was, and probably because they wrote really long messages. 5 people didn't click that little button. They went into their inbox, their Facebook inbox, and they decided to send me a personal Facebook message. 5 people. I could tell you the names of every single person who did that because, wow, they were standing out. They were doing something different. But get this, 5 people took our relationship to the next level. Those other people, they exited out of Facebook. Maybe they were on their smartphones and they saw the alert that it was my birthday. They exited out of Facebook and then they went into their phone contacts and they clicked my name and they sent me a text message that said, "Happy birthday, Wade." 5 people did that. At that point, I'm starting to wonder, did these people remember my birthday? Like, I'm starting to guess that they didn't even get reminded by Facebook. They just know it's my birthday. That means a lot. 2 people, and I'm talking about friends, not family here, picked up the phone and called me. I can guarantee you that I remember those people and I remember our conversations there. Just because somebody shares good news on Facebook doesn't mean that you have to join the crowd of people who are going to hit the like button or who are going to comment with one sentence. You can really stand out with your clients and your connections in a positive way by taking the information you find online and responding to it offline. Pick up the phone and congratulate that person. Take them for a coffee. Write them a note. Mail them a card. Trust me, by doing this, you'll stand out in a very positive way, and I believe this is the very definition of the medium is the message. Well, I just want to thank everyone so much who took the time to tune in today. I'll be sticking around to answer any questions you want to type to me. We've also recorded today's webinar, so later on I'm going to be sharing that recording on some of our social media accounts. So if you found value in today's webinar, we'd really appreciate you, whether it's retweeting that or sharing that out to your networks as well when we post the recording. I'll be sticking around here. If anyone has any questions, feel free to throw those my way and I'll respond to you on a one-on-one basis. You can also reach me at any time here at the head office, wpatterson@remax.net or 1-800-563-3622. Thank you to everyone who tuned in today, and I hope you have a great day.